Welcome to another episode of Redbeard Live. For our third episode of the day, we have strongman Jeremy Clevenger. Jeremy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, man. I've been looking forward to it.
I am excited. You are our third session of the day. We started off the day with Seth Weathers talking about how to use apparel to change the culture and the relationship of what you wear and how you embolden other people with your culture. And then we talked with Zach Small and Dr. Philip Ovadia about how to find a community that's going to strengthen you. So again, talking about our relationship to the group, our relationship to ourselves. And we're rounding out the day with you, Jeremy, because you have done something pretty remarkable with some of your strongman competitions. And for all the viewers out there who are thinking, strongman, I don't know that I really want to go be a heroic bodybuilder. The point of having Jeremy on here is not to be like Jeremy, though that would be cool too. The point is that Jeremy has done a hard thing that takes lots of boring repetitiveness in the right direction over the course of a long period of time, saying yes to a lot of the right things, saying no to a lot of the wrong things in order to achieve an extraordinary result. And if that sounds like what it takes to grow your business, I completely agree. It's what it takes to grow anything. So we're going to go dive into the brain of somebody and the habits of somebody who knows something about getting strong. And by the end of this live stream, we're going to have a better understanding of some tips of how Jeremy thinks and approaches the world that is going to help you, dear viewer, get a better handle on becoming the best version of yourself, whether that's becoming a strongman competitor or something else. So let's start off, Jeremy. What was that big thing that you competed in?
I competed at Strongman Corporation Nationals in Roanoke, Virginia, Salem, Virginia. And it was fun because it was a event that I had never done before. I was supposed to do it last year, and then everything COVID related, I decided I wasn't able to put together a good training session or a good training cycle. Typically, I train for like 12 to 15 weeks, and so I wasn't able to piece something together that was going to give me, wouldn't give me good enough of a shot at being competitive with where I was. So
now let's hold on here. For folks who don't know, what is strongman competition? What does that look like?
So what they do is they'll pick 5 or 6 events. If it's a 2-day competition, they'll choose 6 events. You'll do 3 one day, 3 the other day. If you do a 1-day event, it's just 5 events. Typically, they put a time cap on it at about a minute per event. Some events are like last man standing, where I may have to carry something heavy for as far as I can go. The other one may be a max effort overhead press or a max effort deadlift or something like that.
So when we say carry something heavy, you're talking about what? Picking up a huge rock and then walking until you were about to collapse? Is that about right?
Absolutely. I mean, it could be farmer's carries with 300 pounds in each hand, 400 pounds in each hand. It could be a yoke sitting on your back that weighs 700 or 800 pounds. Like, it's all freakishly heavy stuff. And one of the
That's a lot of weight.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the cool things about it too was, if you look back at like World's Strongest Man from like early 2000s, late 1990s, we're doing weights now in my weight class that are very close to what they were doing back at World's Strongest Man then. They did about an 800-pound yoke. I personally have done an 800 training, and I'm like, it shows you how much the sport has increased in popularity, and the training sessions have gotten better, and people have just become much more fond of it, and so they're able to train and push that next level.
That's incredible. How much training did it take you to get from being a more or less average guy to being able to farmer carry, which, folks, if you don't know, is carrying one weight in each hand and walking in a circle or what have you, 300 or 400 pounds per hand? My farmer's carry is 1 kettlebell per hand. It's like 50 pounds. And I can do that. And I'm not weak, but I'm not strong. I don't focus on strength right out. I can climb mountains, but I'm not strong. So you're talking like 6 or 8 times how much I can functionally walk around my yard until my arms give out. That's a lot. How long did it take you to get there to where you can do what you can do now?
I'd say it probably took me about 2 or 3 years of training. I'm only 23, so I still have youth on my side. And once I got into just weightlifting in general, I started when I was 15, and I was an athlete. So I played 3 sports growing up. And football and wrestling are honestly what has helped me the most in strongman, because it's helped me be mobile. Like, if you look at powerlifters, everything that they do is a static movement. If you look at strongmen, a lot of it's moving events and being able to keep your hips mobile enough. So doing wrestling and playing football helped me stay mobile and agile to where I'm not so stiff, because that's one of the things why I fell in love with strongman, because it's like, I'm not the most statically strong person. So like, I don't have the biggest overhead press, or I don't have the biggest deadlift, but I don't lose too many events where I have to do farmers carries or do yoke runs or anything like that. This last event was actually the first time I've lost one of those. So it was a humbling experience because I was like 7 for 7 or 8 for 8, and then I got beat by like 3 other guys. So it just showed me that I still had a little bit more to do.
There's always more. How do you build stability when you're moving with really heavy weights?
A lot of it is active core work. So doing planks, doing rotational and anti-rotational stuff, because when you have that stuff, it's going to try to pull you from side to side. So just having a strong core and a strong upper back is going to be one of the biggest things for it. Not only that, but if you're going to do like farmers carries or any kind of like a carrying event, having good grip strength is obviously a major key. And it's kind of funny, when I did my first farmers carry, it was 300 pounds a hand, and I had never deadlifted 600 before in my life. And I picked up the farmer's carries, and my thing was, and the thing that I always tell people is, if I can pick it up, I can run with it. And so that's what I did. I literally picked it up and took off. It was a run, speed walk, whatever, but I went 60 feet in like 8.5 seconds, which got me first place. And so I can't deadlift 600 on a straight bar. So it was like, this is pretty cool. That's kind of like it.
So there I was, leading a snowshoe climb of Unicorn Peak, which is a minor peak just south of Mount Rainier. And we had this big place to go down the mountain. And I had a bunch of newer people in the mountaineering club that I'm a part of. And some of them are on their butts glissading down, but I don't glissade because I was in search and rescue. And sometimes how people die in the mountains is they're glissading down, but there's a river they don't know about. And they just fall through a few inches of snow into a river, get sucked into a river, and by the time we find the body, they're long gone. So I just don't glissade, too dangerous, even if there's not supposed to be any rivers. But I don't like walking slowly. So what I do is I run in snowshoes with an ice axe in hand. And these, my cohort there are glissading down, and I'm just running down. And it's one of these, it sounds a little bit crazy, and most folks don't do it because you have freaking huge snowshoes on your feet. And in fact, if you do it wrong, you could very easily tumble and break all kinds of things. So don't screw up, right?
Absolutely.
The snow has to be just right. The weather has to be just right. The weight on your back has to be just right. You have to really know what you're doing. But that whole movement thing really speaks to me of, if you can just do it while you're moving, that you can do all kinds of things that if you try to do it slowly, it's not going to work.
Absolutely.
Tell me this. I want to hear about, as you focus on strong, when you focus on heavy weights while moving, what have you had to say no to, or how do you discipline yourself and sustain that energy you got from wrestling and other things as you were younger? Because a lot of us, in talking about myself here, I can look at times where I was stronger and I can say, yeah, I didn't sustain that mobility. I didn't sustain that strength. I didn't sustain that stamina. And I can imagine a version of myself that did, that put in that work. And so I want to hear more about your routine for maintaining all these things as you're going through your athletic career.
Yeah. So, I mean, everybody's going to have times where they can't train at the same level that they always have. Like, I went 15 weeks training as hard as I could. Then I went to Florida for 2 weeks. And my goal while I was there to just get 2 workouts in a week. I didn't have to kill myself. I didn't have to travel to a gym. I just wanted to get in there, keep the blood flowing, have 2 hard workouts, and then be done for the rest of the week just to maintain. Another thing, like you mentioned, is going to be mobility, especially with your hips. And when you train very heavy all the time, it's very easy for your hips to get bound up, which is why you see some of the big powerlifter guys and they just come in and they're waddling through the room because they just literally don't have it in their hips anymore. But doing the hip mobility exercises and doing the stuff that nobody typically wants to do, doing stretching at night, foam rolling, stuff like that is all great. And honestly, for a while, it was something that I neglected. And then I was like, especially with my overhead press, like my overhead mobility is not where it needs to be just yet. And so I'm working on dialing that back in with my training partner. But as far as maintaining the athleticism, if you want to call it that, mobility is huge. You can take a little bit of time off training, but as long as you're hitting your mobility, you're good.
What percentage of your, let's call it, success is attributable to your continued working out on the specific thing of strongman, as opposed to the mobility and maintenance kind of work? Is that like half and half, or what?
I would say it's pretty close, half and half, or 60-40, 60% strongman, 40% mobility, just because when you're doing strongman, you still need to keep the strength, whatever that looks like for you, whether it's just pushing the tempo in training or just training heavy 1 or 2 times a week to keep that actual like muscle memory and keep that strength there. But then doing mobility on the back end is what really seals the deal for you. Keeps you from, like I said, getting stiff. And honestly, a lot of people that don't do mobility, those are the ones that you see with injuries, because they'll be doing something and they may rip their shoulder out, or they may pull their hamstring, or I mean, who knows what it is? There's a wide variety of stuff, but as long as you stay on top of your mobility and you can keep your training intensity high, at least 3/4, if not 80% of the year, then you'll be good to go.
I was just telling a story in the last live stream of hurting myself in jiu-jitsu by when I first started training in that, by not having enough mobility and not slowing down enough to build it, thinking I'm just rolling on the floor, not even with another person yet, and just hurt myself because I didn't have the right mobility. So you're saying maybe 50-50-ish. Does that mean if I'm spending 2 hours a week doing whatever my main training is, that you're saying a full 2 hours of mobility work per week? Is that what I'm hearing?
Pretty close. I like to split it up throughout the day. So like in the morning, I'll do my stretching. I don't like to stretch around my workout, because a way that it was explained to me is that your muscles are like a rubber band. So think about if you've just taken a rubber band before you actually go to snap it, and you just hold it out here for a long time, it's not going to have that same pop as it would if you just did some active stuff with it, like you're just stretching it and letting it go back. So a lot of times for like my static stretching, I'll do that in the morning, and then I'll do more of my mobility stuff at night, just to make sure, because I train midday, mid-afternoon, just to make sure that as my body's recovering now, I'm still able to move and everything like that.
I have a confession, which is, with a decade of sword fighting and years of mountain climbing, there has never been a time, I don't think even a single day, where I spent as much time on mobility as I did on whatever I was doing for a workout. That
Honestly, you're not the only one. I mean, there's a ton
I
of people.
know. Well, I just wonder how much more mobile would I be now in my late 30s if I had, at any point in my 10 years of sword fighting, decided to spend more than 5 or 10 minutes stretching out before a 2 or 4 hour times fighting.
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, it's quite a difference. I wasn't doing as much of my overhead mobility, and so my training partner was like, "You guys, we need to really focus in on this with you." And so like I did it for 2 weeks since I've done nationals, and I'm already getting to the point where now I can put my hands over my head, no problem, back behind my head, no problem. So it's something that comes back really quick, but it's also very easy to lose it too if you're not actively doing it.
I finally got a squat bar recently, and I went and I'm reading the book Starting Strength, and you and I talked about squats, and so I went and got in the position, and I started to go with good form, went down and discovered, wow, with proper position, I can barely squat. That my muscles are on my shoulders and my back, like they're not flexible enough to have a good position. And I was talking to a trainer buddy of mine, and she was saying, well, yeah, you need to do all this pre-work before you can even squat safely. And this is with a bar. This is not with weight. This is just the bar.
Yeah.
I was thinking, that's not my impression I have of myself. I'm not inflexible. I don't feel inflexible. And yet I go to do one of the most fundamental movements, and I discover, there's a lot of work there. So tell me, for people like me, for example, who discover, wow, I'm not as flexible as I need to be to actually move, what kind of training do you do with people like that to help them get more flexible?
A lot of it is just body weight training, getting you used to moving your body and the full range of motion that it needs to be before you put a bar on your back, before you deadlift off the ground, because a lot of people have tight hamstrings, so they can't deadlift effectively, and then they feel it in their low back. Some people don't have the back and shoulder mobility to do squats, so I'll have them do like goblet squats or something until we get their mobility back to where they can squat pain-free. Because if you don't do your mobility in your back or in your shoulders for your squats, then you're going to end up with bicep tendonitis, and now you're fighting a whole different thing without even necessarily intending to. But it's just something that lacks on your end, and so it's going to show itself in training. But for a lot of times with people, it's just taking them through active warm-ups, getting their shoulders. I've had clients that couldn't raise their arms up above here, and we work with them for 12 weeks, and now they can put their hands all the way up and touch and have no problem.
At least I got that. I can do that.
Yeah.
It's just this position right here of properly. Why is it, do you think, Jeremy, that we don't want to do the prep work for hard things, even when we know the hard thing is hard, which is why we want to do it, because we want to win? But I see it all the time in myself and everyone else, right? Like you're saying, if you're going to be working out for an hour, do an hour of mobility stuff, that an hour of whatever that is. A lot of people I know in my business community, we have courses we've bought on how to do whatever, podcasting or membership site building. And we know they're good because they're from the best people in the world. And we know if we just did everything in the course, we know we'd get the results we're looking for, or at least get closer. But don't ask me how many hours I've spent on training myself in the last week, because it's not even close to the hours I've spent doing stuff and actually doing the output side of things. So why do you think it is that we short ourselves on that prep work?
Because it's not the fun stuff. It's not the sexy stuff. Like, I hate stretching. I hate doing mobility. It doesn't give you that adrenaline rush like deadlifting 600 pounds does. It doesn't give you the adrenaline rush like hitting a new PR or training arms or whatever that looks like. It doesn't release that dopamine the same way that training does. But one thing that I have noticed is, as a result of doing the mobility work and stuff, it makes those PRs even better, because you're like, man, I wouldn't have been able to do this if I wasn't able to do the mobility work. Or if I didn't do the mobility work. So it really brings it full circle. I've had clients who, like I said, have tight hamstrings and they may not be able to deadlift the bar. And like I said, we work with that, or we work with them on that, get them to where they're actually doing some deadlifts, and while at the same time strengthening their weaknesses. And I've had guys go from not being able to deadlift the bar to deadlifting 225 or 255 in a matter of like 12 to 16 weeks. So being able to pair both of them together, where you're strengthening the muscle and you're also working on the mobility aspect, is a huge key when it comes to getting people to where they want to be.
When I started my podcast, I thought, I want to go do this well. This was March or May of 2019. So it's been a little while now. I'm at episode 115. It was this week, I think. And I thought, I want to do this thing well. And then I thought, I think I'm going to fall in the trap of trying to get everything organized before I get started. So I started off with a 59-second episode called I Believe, which is somehow I'll go delete because, oh goodness, it's horrible, of just a brief manifesto of how I approach things. And then within a couple of weeks, I had my first actual interview. And then that's episode number 1, and episode 115, whatever. But when I started, I thought, when I look back from episode 100, I know that the first episodes are going to be embarrassing. There's just no question. There's no way. I accepted the cost of, there's no way I can do anything good here. I'm going to do my first 100 episodes, and that's going to be my training wheels. And if anyone gets any benefit, if anyone listens, we're set. And I have over 10,000 downloads, or over 11,000. Wonderful. All kinds of productivity there. But I'm acknowledging, okay, now in the second 100, so now it's sort of that, what am I doing here? I'm now going to go monetize this and go get more serious. But the first 100 were just the reps. Just do this thing 100 times. But that took me a year and a half to get to episode 100, something like that. It's quite a while.
Yeah.
How do you motivate yourself to do the reps when you really, 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 really don't want to?
One of the biggest things for me is putting a date on the calendar. Now, not everybody is going to compete. Not everybody is going to push themselves to that level, but it has been a great motivator for me to know, like, hey, I've got 12 weeks to bring my best self to the table, because I'm going to go compete in front of 100 to 200 people. And I'm going to be showing everybody, like on my Twitter, on my Instagram and stuff like that, here's the results that I got. So I don't have that option to fail. For a lot of people, it's just setting goals, setting smart goals, and having a few be short-term, having a few be long-term. We're like, that's one of the things I do with my clients, is like, we set goals that you want to achieve in the first 12 weeks. Once we accomplish those, okay, now what do you want to accomplish in the next year? Give them a little bit of a more long-term scale, because a lot of people want that instant gratification. They're like, hey, I didn't lose 12 pounds this week. The program's not working. I'm like, how long did it take you to put on that weight? And you're going to lose it overnight, like, or in 6 weeks or in 8 weeks or something like that. So a lot of it is getting people to just slow down and realize that it is a process. And from there, you can take like small baby steps. And then you go back and look over the course of 6 months, and you're like, man, my numbers have gone through the roof, or I've dropped 40 pounds on the scale. Getting people to look more big picture instead of looking at everything in such a small lens.
It's painful, because I deeply feel the truth of what you say when it comes to something I know something about, like podcasting or sword fighting, where podcasting, to get any good, great, go publish 100 episodes, then come back and we'll have a conversation. And at that point, we can have a good conversation. Or if you want to get good at sword fighting, great, go get an armor, spend about 3 years going to practice every week. After your first 3 years, you've really learned enough that we can have a good conversation. But until then, we can't have a conversation. And so I look at your field and I think, do I want to be stronger? Yeah. Am I willing to put in years of effort, or, like 12 weeks of focused attention? Maybe. Even though in the area I know about, I'm like, oh yeah, just 100 episodes, just do them 100, just get them out of the way. That's just the beginning. It's fine. It's okay if it's okay if they're not great. It's fine.
Yeah. That's what
Hypocritical.
a lot of people don't realize, that like when you look at everything from a bigger scale, like if I start working with somebody new and they're like, yeah, we're going to sign you for 12 weeks and we want to get you moving with that. A lot of the times, the first 12 weeks is either going back and fixing your bad habits that you already had and then adding a little bit to it. So like if you're eating fast food 4 nights a week, the first 3 weeks, our goal might be to get you down to where you're eating fast food 3 nights a week. Like I'm not going to totally throw everything at you and expect you to change, because you're going to fail. It's inevitable. If I just took a 500-pound bar and threw it at you and told you to squat it, you're going to fail. So we have to work your way up to it, just like we do with people's diets, just like we do with any goals that you have. Is it's like you have to understand that there's a process to all of it, and you can't just jump right in, or else you're going to fail. Like I said, it's inevitable.
When I've trained people how to shoot rifles and handguns, I have twice had female students who, within one lesson, were out shooting me with handguns. And you already know why that is, because we spent no time unlearning bad habits.
Yeah.
Whereas with the guys who have, in general, more shooting experience, but also more ego, to train them out, no, the elbow doesn't go there. It goes over here. Or no, don't breathe like that. Breathe like this. There's so much time spent unlearning.
Yeah.
Well, if someone is interested in getting stronger and they have some concept of there might be a lot of unlearning and a lot of slow progress to get there, but they still believe it's worth it, how can people go talk to you more about actually getting stronger and being trained by someone who is a champion?
Honestly, they can shoot me an email. I have everything listed on my social media. On Twitter, I've got my Instagram and stuff. I have my DMs open at all times, so if people are interested, they can definitely hop on there and just be like, hey, I saw you were talking about X, Y, and Z. I'd like to get on a call with you. That's another thing that I love to do, is I just love getting on calls with people. Like I'll find when I have new followers come in and they're like, hey, I really like your message. I'm like, dude, let's get on a call. Or if I see somebody post a lifting video and it's just bad, like I'll do a total complimentary call with them, just get on there and show them like, hey, I genuinely care about you. Because what that does is that establishes trust with them, but it also puts your name in the back of their head. So if they have a friend who's looking for a coach or something like that, they can be like, hey, this guy helped me with my deadlift. He helped me learn how to deadlift with no back pain anymore. So go ahead and hit him up. So I'm really big on that and just providing value for people. So that way they see that like, hey, he's not just in it for the money. Like he's not just trying to land clients left and right. Like I'm getting ready to cut off a lot of my clients here at the end of the year, like just as far as onboarding new clients, because I'm getting to the point where it's starting to reach my cap, and I just want to make sure that I'm able to service them as good as possible. But yeah, my DMs are always open. My email, feel free to just shoot me a message on there. I'd love to get on a call with anybody that's interested.
Wonderful. Well, Jeremy, thank you for sharing with us some of your techniques and helping to understand how to work through the boredom of enough reps to actually get to where we want to going. The Twitter handle, guys, is big_JERM200. If you want to go and learn more from Jeremy, I'll see you all. We're not going to do any live streams next Friday, but I'll be back the Friday after that for more Redbeard Lives.